Can you share from your lens of perception what spiritual hygiene is? But more importantly, what I'm really curious to ask is how can one discern when they are participating in spiritual hygiene or when they are operating out of fear underneath the disguise as spiritual hygiene?
Hmm, great questions. Okay. So, we go from these places of intellectually understanding a concept, to getting more curious with it, participating in it, trying different things on, and then getting into the flow of practicing certain things. And then we get greater and greater clarity in doing so, right? And greater and greater and greater is the embodiment and the knowing of a particular concept, if you will, or system. And so I feel the topic of an exploration of spiritual hygiene is very much a part of this. So spiritual hygiene, again, there's not one size fits all. Everybody's interfacing and participation and what they term or feel and recognize spirituality to be for them is unique, right? So, but generally speaking, spiritual hygiene is the practice, right? Is a practice of really having and expanding our greater awareness and participation and clearing our energetic fields of the physical, mental, emotional, and spirit body complex and all the different layers and levels of intricate technology, et cetera, that lie within those systems, to clearing it, nourishing it, cleansing it, purifying it, grounding it, fortifying it, strengthening it, right? So they're all different levels, and from my vantage point in this now moment of what spiritual hygiene means. And there's all different ways in which we can enter into and participate in it. There are the intentions that are driven by fear, right? And a way of spiritual hygiene being a system of protection, right? Protecting us against things that are to be concerned over or fearful of. And so our intention is in the fear frequency, and therefore the practice of what we feel as hygiene is actually creating a greater sense and flow of warring frequencies, even if the intention ultimately is to be in a place of greater sovereignty and freedom and peace and joy, and to omit frequencies that are not of our highest expression of divinity here. If we apply the practices of hygiene through the frequencies of warring and through the frequencies of fear, we're ultimately creating more of that within our energetic system, right? We're creating portals and pathways, and we're creating timelines whereby we're more susceptible, if you will, or more likely to magnetize those experiences, because everything is energy and the universe doesn't discern or create a judgment of good or bad. It pairs like energy with like energy. So, what is our intention within that? What is our intention, and how do we perceive the spiritual hygiene? If we shift our perspective from that of protecting to that of nourishing, cleansing, restoring, amplifying, igniting, expressing to the highest place of expression, right? Or the highest point of expression, our highest potential, and getting very clear with what we will choose and allow our physical, mental, emotional, and spirit body to participate in, and what we choose not to, then I feel this is a perhaps a more exalted state or a more exalted participation in what could be termed spiritual hygiene, right? Which is essentially monitoring as the witnessing presence, expanding our awareness as the witnessing presence, and greater and greater and greater places of embodiment, all the layers and levels of energies and frequencies that are participating in our own unique hologram, our own unique sort of compilation of sound and light and plasma within. So the more we bring our awareness to and get clear with the universe and give love and attention and honoring and nourishment to our physical, mental, emotional, and spirit body complexes by way of spiritual hygiene, the more the universe responds accordingly, right? If we are more consciously directing our experience of life more presently, then the universe responds accordingly. And so initially, upon entering into this system of awakening, right, this grand journey of awakening in this lifetime, I found myself participating in spiritual hygiene from a place of, from a more fear-driven program of like, oh, okay, wait a second, there's light and there's dark, there's good and there, type of thing. And I quickly was guided by highest self and source to shift that to a place of recognition that everything is frequency, and the intention really drives to what degree of efficacy and actual nourishment, support, clearing, and cleansing can take place, right? So the other part to this is spirit. Our physical body is just as spiritual as our spirit body or our light body is, right? Our emotional body is just as spiritual as our light body or our spirit body, as well as our mental body. So we seem to have compartmentalized, as we tend to do as human beings, to have a felt sense of our spiritual hygiene kind of reflected more so and primarily into the spirit body complex. But really, all actions, all thoughts, all words, all beliefs that we participate in are part of our spiritual practice, are part of our spirituality, and are part of participation, and to what degree and level of spiritual purity or hygiene, right, clarity exists within our hologram. So even the practices of what we put into our body in terms of consumption of food, what we listen to, what we view through our eyes, all of these layers and levels of our daily participation in life could ultimately be encompassed, under the umbrella, if you will, of spiritual hygiene. And they're all very, equally weighted, if you will, in importance. Yeah, I'll pause there for a moment and see if there's more to be explored in this.
It's funny because you were touching on things that was coming up without me needing to ask it. Perhaps what I would say is, aside of being conscious of what you touched on in the last little bit of like what we're listening to, what we're watching, what we're eating, and getting clear with our intentions, is there like a tool for one who's like wanting to practice the exalted state of spiritual hygiene? And I know there's not a one answer fits all, but something that you've used that you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, in my heightened awareness of all levels of our participation here as part of our spiritual journey and practice, right? There is no separation or compartmentalizing unless we choose to have that, right? But the more and more and more I dive into this desire and intention and blueprint of ascension, the more I recognize that all ways in which we express our consciousness is ultimately supporting, nourishing, clearing, cleansing, purifying, amplifying, or you know, the polarity of that, and then lots of systems in between, right? It's not this and that. So in other words, recognizing that every level of participation here is either nourishing and expanding our guidance, our inner knowing, our support, etc., or or working perhaps in the opposing or polarized direction of that. That said, something that I practice in many different forms, in many different ways, at many different points in the day, as I feel organically called to do so, is I call forth and position myself within the central channel of all that is. And what this represents and how this presents itself to me is basically the central column, or the pranic tube, if you will, of pure prime source creator. So the creator of the hub of all creation, the source of all creation, this massive system and consciousness domain that presents itself as the creator of all creation, pure prime source creator. From that streams through an impenetrable column of pure life force pranic energy, of pure source creational codes. And from my understanding and perception in this now moment, that threads through every single individuation that has ever sparked from the hub of all creation. So every spark of source has its own unique bandwidth of connection to this central channel of pure source light that streams through every system of creation. And there's certain hubs of creational energy that for me is shown as, if we were to think of the source of all creation being the central sun of all of existence, right? Or what appears similarly to the central sun of all existence. From that streams down this unpenetrable, pure life force, pranic creational energy. And throughout all different systems of creation, throughout all space, time, there are hubs or central suns, these what appear to me as these spheres of pure prime source creator connection and energy that hold greater and more significant bandwidth, if you will, of this energy. So I'm just painting a greater picture to give context to the practice in which I was guided by highest self and source to participate in for spiritual hygiene. So think about infinite threads of this pure pranic energy. We have a spine as a human incarnate. We have a spine, right? We have a central tube, which is referred to as the shushuma, or the central channel that runs down and through the center of our bodies. And that's our own unique channel or conduit, if you will, of this pranic tube, of this central channel of all that is, of all creation. And so we can, expand that energy, and we can contract that energy. And the more and more one awakens to the eternal life force energy and source, unique individuation of source that they are, the more one tends to expand and ignite the fullest potential of their central channel, right? Of their pure connection to the highest sort of connection points, if you will, to the prime source creator of all creation. Some incarnates come in, having a very sort of narrow scope of this, to have the experience of what it would feel like to have a very narrow flow of this pranic connection, if you will. Others greater, and in all spaces and places in between. So when I go to throughout the day, many times throughout the day, to cleanse and nourish and support and fortify and strengthen my physical, mental, emotional, and spirit body complexes here, I call forth and command in to be fully enveloped above, below, side to side, and all around in this radiant pranic tube of pure source connection. So the central channel of all that is, I call it down, through, all around, clearing, cleansing, purifying, activating, nourishing all my meridians, gateways, chakras, portals within, moving down and through all layers and levels of my participation in existence here, clearing out any and all frequencies that are not aligned in my most exalted expression of divine design here. Or you could say your highest expression of your blueprint, however one resonates. But I imagine that radiant diamond white energy moving down and through and all around, and I could feel it, and I'll breathe in that, right? So I'll inhale it in, bringing it in through all layers and levels of my body, all the way down and through, all around my feet, down and connecting into the central crystal earth star core. From my perception, it's the central sun that exists within the core of Gaia. So it's a direct and massive system of pure prime source creator energy that exists within the core of Gaia, Mother Earth, and streaming down and through Gaia, similarly to humanity being the micro of the macro. Gaia additionally has a central channel of energy that runs through her. And so, I imagine myself within the central channel of all that is, within the central channel of all that is that flows through Gaia. I'm connecting down into this central sun, the central crystal earth star core. I'm connecting all the way up into my highest connection as a unique individuation of source, into the central sun of all that is, right? The fullest connection. And so I allow myself to feel, and instantaneously in doing this, the deeper the presence and awareness we have, the more we can start to recognize, okay, I can see and sense and witness what feels as organic and authentic to my my highest expression here, and what's participating that perhaps does not feel that way. But regardless, instantly upon doing this, and again I use the breath and and calling in the light, and as I exhale, I assist the light in releasing and disengaging and melting away any and all programs that are in direct polarity or duality to my highest blueprint here.
Okay, one thing just came in as you were sharing that. When I look at all of the reasons why one would, participate in spiritual hygiene when they're in fear, basically, I was seeing how important it is to be neutral when participating in this. As you touched on it, like if you're participating in spiritual hygiene to be protected against something, you're fearing something outside of you, you're saying there's something more omnipotent, omnipresent than you are, and so you're doing something out of a state of fear. But one thing that came, like a situation that I just imagine, is like someone waking up out of sleep paralysis. They just had an experience of something taking place, and their heart's racing, and they're just like, they're freaking out, and they start to do let's say like a Green Tara's mantra to participate in spiritual hygiene. But one can say that there's a fear because their heart's racing, they just had this experience. So how much could that still be like it's neutral? Like I would almost would classify that person not being neutral, but I'm sure that would work. So where's the fine line, if that makes
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because we have lots and lots of layers as human incarnates, right? We have lots of programmed beliefs running subconsciously and consciously, many programs that fall upon the spectrum of fear. So, and we're initiates of our own blueprint here, right? And so as we have these experiences, our first responders in these types of experiences, could be our nervous system and our physical body, right? It holds a lot of imprints. It holds a lot of programs of collective ancestral and soul traumas, etc. So our immediate response in these circumstances may be a fear response. It can overtake us at times, right? It's like, whoa. It really, what my understanding is, and of my own experience here, is coming to that place of, okay, even in those moments of fear and terror, taking a moment to the best of our ability, and it takes practice and mastery, and as humans, as we know, we have lots of opportunities for that practice, right? So what may start off in fear and sort of participatory in the warring frequency, right, of me against you, you against me, and so forth, right? Remembering, that we are the co-creators and of our experience and the directors of our external reality. So taking a pause and breathing, dropping in, getting as neutral as we possibly can, bringing all of our bodies into the invitation of neutrality in that experience. And then finding tools and ways in which we can support ourselves in staying in that place of neutrality, and support ourselves through sound and light and plasma, etc., in fortifying and nourishing and supporting and holding our field to the best of our awareness and abilities in that place of neutrality. Because as soon as we command and declare all of our bodies to come into a place of neutrality, to come out of a place of fear, everything shifts. Everything shifts. And interesting that you bring in the green Tara mantra of Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha, because this is a phenomenal tool, and actually have used it before in sleep paralysis and dream state, because it's structured, it's sound, it's geometry, it's sacred geometry that comes through the sound. Its structure has been created to transmute all layers and levels of ignorance and fear, and that which is in polarity to the highest expressions of divinity, if you will, or of the highest frequencies of love and compassion and so forth. So bringing something in of this, of this nature, of this intention, of this pristine energetic field is a beautiful way to participate when we find ourselves in an experience that triggers a lot of the emotion of fear, right? And also how we participate in that mantra is also to what degree of efficacy it holds, right? So if we're participating in the mantra because we desire to become one, we desire to become the field of Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha, we desire to become, this creational field that is in complete, polarity to frequencies of fear, right? And we're doing that from a place of self-love and nourishment and compassion, etc. Then we open ourselves to becoming that, to emanating it, to unifying our field with that. If we're participating in it from a place of I'm using this as a tool for warring frequency, then we don't expand its full potential and full participation, and transcending us or transcending us out of a particular experience, that feels like maybe a battlefield, if you will. Yeah.